Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Cosmosis. I'm Abhi,
I'm Gauri.
and today we're going to touch on this really interesting topic about sleep paralysis. Gauri here has had certain experiences with
And
this,
that's why I forced this topic into the podcast.
but yeah, no, but honestly, I feel like it's you kind of have like some sort of experience with it, so it would be interesting for
Yeah.
us to hear that. Would you
Yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah. So
start?
so basically, why don't we talk about sleep paralysis as a whole? What's your idea about sleep paralysis? Like, I know we don't have to get into the nitty-gritties and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but when I say sleep paralysis, what do you think of?
For me personally, I haven't had that kind of an experience. For me, at max, I've had dreams
Hmm.
which kind of like leave me in a state of just this
Hmm.
dazed. Leave me in a dazed leave me in a dazed kind of state post that dream. Like sometimes I've had dreams where I wake up and it takes me like half an hour to like an hour, even though I'm
Hmm.
aware of my surroundings, I'm interacting, I'm doing stuff, but it still kind of stays there with me. Certain
Hmm.
dreams, sometimes I'm
Hmm.
just like, okay, it takes me like a little while to get out of that zone that's happened. And sometimes I've had dreams which have just been where I've kind of been aware that I'm kind of dreaming
Hmm.
and I've wanted to wake up, but I haven't been able to.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I would associate it with something of that sort. I have no knowledge about sleep paralysis as such,
Hmm.
but I would kind of like that's what comes to my mind when I think of the term. Like that when I've been left in that state,
Hmm.
in kind of like a vulnerable or like a scary state
Hmm.
within a dream. It doesn't necessarily have to be scary in terms of just the occult,
Hmm.
but just dreams in general are so like all over the place,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They're never really that consistent.
Hmm.
Like they can repeat, but they're still not as consistent in terms of like the world building that's done in the dream
Hmm.
and the people that you meet. Sometimes it's first person and it switches to another thing. So it's kind of strange. It kind of, yeah. What do you feel? What do you think? What have your personal experiences been like, or what do you know about the subject
So okay,
of
so
sleep
since
paralysis?
since I've had a few experiences, I did some research, and apparently there's
Hmm.
the REM cycle, right? The
Yeah,
sleep cycle.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And usually when you're either entering that cycle of deep sleep
Mm-hmm.
or when you're exiting that cycle of deep sleep,
Mm-hmm.
that's usually when sleep paralysis tends to happen, right? Because your mind,
Wait, it takes place during that state of like deep sleep, or is it right
no,
before?
when you're
What I'm a little confused.
entering that state,
Uh huh.
right? So right before,
Uh huh.
or when you're trying to exit that state of deep sleep and wake up. So basically
Hmm.
between those two exit and entrance wala jo point
Okay.
hota
Okay.
hai, right? Where your mind is trying to get into deep sleep or your mind
Uh.
is trying to awaken itself from deep
Hmm.
sleep. um and this is done during 90-minute REM cycles, right?
Hmm.
Also tends to happen if you're stressed out a lot, right? And
Hmm.
if your mind is trying to
Hmm.
be active but also sleep.
What exactly happens? Because
Huh.
I have my assumptions about sleep paralysis. For me, it's thinking that, oh, when you're in a dream which you can't really escape,
Hmm.
or you kind of want to wake up, but you don't really, you're not really
Hmm.
able to wake up,
Hmm.
right? But like I'm not like, obviously, like I'm not considering you to be an expert in that. But with your
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
experiences,
Yeah. Yeah.
or just like for a person who's
Hmm.
completely like a lay person around the
Hmm.
subject,
Hmm.
how would you define sleep paralysis, or the experience of it? Like I get the part where it
Hmm.
it, it it kind of like that 90-minute REM cycle
Entrance and
entrance
exit.
and
Yeah.
exit part that
Yeah.
you just mentioned. But
Okay. Okay.
what? Yeah.
So basically, what happens is, when you're trying to enter that state of sleep or exit
Hmm.
that state of sleep, uh, okay, when you're generally sleeping, your
Hmm.
body goes into a state of temporary paralysis,
Hmm.
right? So you don't act out your dreams or hurt yourself.
Hmm.
Your mind does that to your body in order to
Hmm.
keep you safe,
Yeah.
right? Which is why a lot of times when people sleepwalk, it becomes unsafe for them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't
Hmm.
know what's danger, what to avoid.
Hmm.
Your body
Hmm.
is in a state of paralysis, so you don't
Yeah.
hurt yourself. What happens is sometimes your mind is awakened,
Hmm.
but your body is still in that state of paralysis.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it related to sleepwalking? Do
we'll
these
talk
things?
we'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
We'll talk about
Okay.
that also.
Hmm.
But in a basic state
Hmm.
of where your mind is awakened but your body is paralyzed, right? You're still dreaming, kind of. It's
Hmm.
a half awakened, half asleep
Hmm.
state.
Hmm.
And sometimes what happens is, since your mind is trying to wake itself, or is aware of your surroundings a little bit, those dreams that you're having turn into hallucinations. So a lot of people,
Wait. So, are you
hmm,
awake during that period? Are
not
you
completely.
awake in terms of like? Let me be more specific. Are your eyes open?
Some people say they can open their eyes, and
Yeah.
personally, I've never been able to open my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel heavily
Hmm.
paralyzed. Also, they say don't do that to yourself. If you
Of
ever
course, it's
are
creepy.
aware.
I would freak the fuck out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Freak out. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, a lot of people will, hallucinate that there's someone sitting on them, or something in the room is a figure,
Hmm.
or that
Hmm.
looks like a spirit or a ghost, right?
Hmm.
So that tends to happen a lot with sleep paralysis. Dreams turn into hallucinations at some point, right?
Hmm.
So they say don't open your eyes. Do
Wait, so I
yourself
have
a
a
favor.
question.
Hmm.
Hallucinations in terms of like, do you hallucinate in your waking life, or is it just during that dream that you end up hallucinating a specific thing which is recurring?
Okay, so think about it this way,
Because I'm
right?
trying to just relate it
Hmm.
to my story that I told you at the beginning. That is,
Yeah.
would that fall under this? Where
So,
I'm kind of like feeling like I'm awake, but at the same time I'm also just like I'm like not that I'm awake, but
hmm.
I'm aware.
Hmm.
My bad. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm aware of what's happening,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I'm caught in that dream. I know I
Hmm.
need to wake up. I know I want to wake up. I know
Yeah.
it's a dream, but I'm not able to wake up.
Exactly.
Is
Exactly.
that sleep paralysis?
Yes. So that state of half
That's scary.
awareness of
Yeah.
your entire surrounding,
Hmm.
right? Whenever you're dreaming, you don't necessarily have to be in the room you're sleeping in.
Hmm.
But when you're usually having a sleep paralysis episode, you will be aware of your surroundings,
Hmm.
and something or some sort of a hallucination will be created within those surroundings.
Hmm.
Right? For example, if you're sleeping in a particular room,
Hmm.
and I used to have, for example, a mirror right in front of my bed,
Hmm.
and that used to creep me out whenever I
Hmm.
had sleep paralysis,
Hmm.
because most of my, let's say, sleep
I have all sorts of
paralysis,
scary imagery in my head, and I
yeah,
visualize what you just said.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
the
just
demon standing as a reflection.
no,
Sorry.
or
Yeah,
sometimes I just see myself,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
even scarier,
Hmm.
even scarier.
As in,
Like, for example, if you're
hmm.
hallucinating during a sleep
Hmm.
paralysis episode,
You see yourself in third person.
yeah,
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 yeah.
and I talked to a friend
That's so
about it.
interesting. Yeah, that's actually a common thread in terms of like our dreams. I always wonder why does that happen, right? When we're dreaming,
Hmm.
we kind of take on that. We in real life we never like I never see myself in third person. I always
Hmm.
have like a first person. We always
Hmm.
have like a
Exactly.
first person experience. Whereas in dreams, we
Hmm.
kind of see ourselves from this elevated view where it's kind of third person, and it's
Yeah.
that's like what's that about? Is that I don't know. Does
I don't know.
that
I talked
yeah?
to a friend about it
Hmm.
actually, and she told me that a lot of it has to do with astral. Her belief was that
Hmm. We
I
did
was
touch on
astrally
yeah.
traveling without knowing I was astrally traveling,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is a little impossible according to me, because you
Hmm.
have to put in a lot of meditative
Hmm.
work
Hmm.
to be able to do that.
We did talk about astral travel also. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Um. So that's the whole
That's
point
another
behind it.
episode, guys. Sorry. Yeah.
That's the whole point behind it, right?
Hmm.
You hallucinate. You tend to hallucinate within the surroundings that
Hmm.
exist, and usually last for a few seconds
That's
to
what
a
no,
couple of minutes
yeah.
only.
I feel like it
Uh,
wouldn't be connected to astral travel in that sense necessarily because like yeah, the awareness aspect that you just mentioned. I feel like that's right because in these dreams, I might sometimes be in a familiar space or in my own room
hmm,
or whatever,
hmm,
but quite often or
hmm,
like more like most of the times it's kind of this where I'm just like I start off somewhere, then I'm at some other place, then I'm at some other like
hmm.
the locations or the setting of the dream keeps on changing. Even
Yeah.
though I'll see myself in third person, I'll never see myself in first person. Like I'll never
Yeah.
have that perspective. I don't think I really can't. I don't think I've ever in a dream. I don't know if that's a blanket statement or that I'm just making at this point, but I'm really trying to recall. I don't think I've had. I don't think
Hmm.
I've had a dream where I've seen things in first person. Have you?
Uh.
Just
Yeah.
try. You have for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
interesting. I'm
In
trying to
fact,
think, but I
a lot
really
of the dreams
the
I
ones
thought.
that I remember at least are definitely all that have been in third person. Even one where I was once as a kid, just like I think a lot of people have had this dream. I was as a kid growing up in school,
Hmm.
like I'm naked in the
Hmm.
terrace, and I'm just like out in the balcony. I'm in the balcony and I'm naked and I'm hanging from the rails.
But
Yeah,
the kind of thrill you feel during that
yeah.
hanging, that's
That was
first
scary. I
person.
was
But that's first
terrified.
person, no?
The feeling, I'm not talking about the feeling, I'm
Hmm.
talking about the visual aspect of it
Mm,
in terms
mm,
of that.
hmm,
Obviously the
hmm.
feeling is mine. That's I each and every time in all these dreams I'm the one who's
Hmm.
being terrified and
Yeah.
being being tortured.
Victimized.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like in terms of I'm talking the visual aspect of it.
Hmm.
Like why I thought of that and why I even connected it, why like I kind of resonated with it when you mentioned astral travel is because maybe that's my uh, like how I've been influenced with the media that I've consumed
Hmm.
related to astral travel. I've seen like the thing that comes to my head is Insidious, the
Hmm.
Insidious series. You've seen it, right? You haven't. You have to. But I feel like at least for maybe then you'll be able to tell me if that's something that's relatable to you, or But I feel like in that they always did depict astral travel in that kind of a sense, where it was like that third person view that the person gets. So yeah, I
But very
hmm,
interestingly, we were also talking about sleepwalking,
hmm,
right? So with sleepwalking, what they say is
hmm,
that your mind is in a state of deep sleep, but your body is um
hmm,
walking,
hmm.
which is why it's dangerous,
Yeah.
because your mind cannot protect you,
Of course.
right? So I'll
But
tell you
that's what
very,
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but
no,
I've this kind of a thing with sleepwalking. I've never known of a person in my life
I'm gonna
ever.
tell you a
You
very
have
spooky incident.
a real incident?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So my
Okay,
hmm.
first tell me, then I'll
So a
ask you a
college
question.
roommate I
Yeah.
had, who I
You
won't
did
name.
mention this. Yeah.
Yes, she used to sleepwalk. She used to sleep
Hmm.
right. She used to
Hmm.
write in her sleep as
Hmm.
well. She used to
That's what I
play
was
on
just
her
about to ask
phone.
this question. I
Yeah,
was just about to
yeah.
you're saying that like the mind isn't there to protect you,
Hmm.
but I feel like at that point, isn't the mind like kind of protecting you because you're able to really perform complex tasks?
No, no. For
You're able to
example,
avoid like banging into things. Some people, I
no,
guess,
you're
drive.
not. You're usually not. I've known people who've
Okay, that's what
there's
I'm asking. Like
no.
I would
So
consider
usually, okay,
writing to be a complex task
no, no. It is
for you to pick that pen up,
complex, but I'll tell you
for you to be
something
able
very
to
spooky.
really, because you kind of need visual aids. I'm just thinking,
No,
like
no.
visual aid for that. You
This is
kind of
very
need to.
spooky what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Hold on. So what my
Hmm.
roommate used to do is, for
Hmm.
example, the four of us used to live in the same apartment,
Hmm.
and three of us were very luckily
Hmm.
in the kitchen.
Hmm.
If you remember Gateway,
Hmm.
should not have said that.
No, that's
The
fine.
Gateway.
That's
If you remember that, we had a
hmm.
common room, right? All three of
Hmm.
us were in the common room by
Hmm.
chance. We were doing
Hmm.
homework, cooking,
Ground
or
floor thing.
something. Yeah, and she was sleeping after a very stressful exam. She had
Hmm.
been awake the entire night.
Hmm.
Usually, again, sleep paralysis,
Hmm.
sleepwalking
Hmm.
happens
Hmm.
if you're stressed out a lot.
Hmm.
And she just walked out of her room in
Hmm.
her pajamas,
Hmm.
right? And she walked right to the door. And we tried to tell her, like, where are you going? Because she had no
Hmm.
footwear.
Hmm.
She was in her pajamas,
Hmm.
not dressed to go out.
Was she sitting like with you guys? Like,
No,
was
she was
yeah.
sleeping in a room.
Okay.
She just
Okay.
came out of a
Oh,
room.
you're talking about the middle common area. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. She just came out of a room,
Hmm.
started walking towards the main door of the
Hmm.
apartment, to leave. And oh my God, she
You would
had
have
no
just
idea.
lost your yeah.
She was bare feet,
Hmm.
right? And
You initially didn't. You guys didn't catch her eyes initially.
we knew she slept.
But were you aware that she was kind
She
of having
sleepwalked.
an episode at that point?
We had never seen her have an episode, but it was pretty apparent because we called her name. She wasn't listening, right? And
No, I'm just trying to. Why I'm asking these questions is I'm just trying to put myself there.
yeah.
Like I would have been really.
And the thing is, if
creeped
someone's
out.
yeah. If someone's sleepwalking, you can't startle them out of it because they're in that state of deep sleep, right? So and their body's still acting out, so they might either hurt themselves or you in that state. So
What did you guys do?
one of my roommates just turned her around, sent her back to her room to sleep, and she went back to bed.
That's kind of funny, but
Yeah. Yeah, we were like, that easier fix.
yeah. No, but it's also just like it's funny and it's very scary.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, I'm also thinking that okay, were you guys aware? You guys knew that she does has
She
does
told us that I do
yeah,
this.
that she does sleepwalk, but at that point when she, because I'm sure you guys would have been used to just like another person, like that's happened where like another person gets out of their room and just kind of just goes
No,
to the
we were
kitchen.
not used to it.
Okay, no, I'm not talking about the sleepwalking thing. I'm saying I'm just trying to ask you about that feeling in that moment, just to know about it.
We
Like
were
when
worried
you
for her.
realized that she was sleepwalking,
We
because
were
when she
worried.
did you guys know from the get go? That's what I'm saying. There must have been like a one
The way
millisecond,
she
even if
was
it's a
walking,
second.
the way she
Hmm.
was walking, we knew.
Okay. Like
Like
the
with
moment
her
she
eyes.
opened the door, you were like, she's sleepwalking.
I don't remember if her eyes were open or closed. I
Huh.
think they were
Leave
open.
the eyes also, just in general, your thoughts.
Yeah.
Where you
No,
guys.
it was very apparent.
Okay, so
It's
you guys
very
knew she
apparent.
was having an episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It was
that's
very
what.
apparent because the way she walked, it was also like something she does every day, no?
I was just wondering because otherwise you would have been like, acha, like something, or like just call her name out or something.
Yeah, and I think her eyes were open. And it was muscle memory. She does that every day. She walks out of bed, opens the door, knows where to walk out of the apartment from, right? So there was muscle memory. That's why I think she was also able to perform that in a state of sleep, or half. I don't know exact
Makes
state
sense.
kya hota hai sleep ka us time.
Yeah.
But we were worried.
And
We were
these
like,
are obviously things that like even like scientists don't really like know much about at this point too.
yeah,
Like
but
so it's kind of like that's
yeah.
interesting. Like I'm sure like all experiences are valid. That's what I'm trying to bring.
No,
get to
of
that
course,
point.
of course, and
Yeah.
we were worried because we were there at that point. If it happened when we
I would have
weren't,
freaked out.
she would have just left the apartment barefoot,
gone where what? But
gone in LA of all
But
places
if she's
in the
had
world.
these incidents, like so many times. I'm sure she would have probably.
The
She
thing
wouldn't have
with-
always had a Gauri and her roommate to like help her out.
I don't know, but the
Or
thing
did she
with
make
college
sure?
also is I think the stress exacerbates these situations. And we
makes
talked about
sense.
it. She was like,
Yeah.
I've never done this like in it was afternoon, right? Where LA is all out and about, and it's not safe to just sleepwalk in the afternoon.
You go to the roads, you'll die.
Yeah. Or just get kidnapped or picked up by someone.
No, I was just talking about the traffic in general.
Yeah, but
like,
other than that
that
also,
too,
no?
that
If there's a
too.
sleepwalking woman,
Especially that area was very sketchy.
yeah. So we
You
were
yourself
worried for
have
her.
had incidents happen there.
Yeah.
Catcalling and all.
Yeah. Catcalling in one of my roommates, I'll tell
Hmm.
you, the same apartment mein, someone took her phone and they were forcing her to give her a blowjob.
Oh my
They were like, we
fucking
won't
God.
return your phone. And she was an international student,
Yeah,
didn't know too
yeah,
much.
yeah. Oh,
But
the East Asian person. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, so
तो like
someone
follow करती है
behind
नहीं
her,
चाहिए. हाँ.
someone behind her noticed and called the police. That's why
Hmm.
she got like saved. Otherwise, they were like, come to the car and take the phone, and God
That's so
knows what
scary.
would happen.
That's so scary.
But
That's
anyway,
so scary. She was willing to go also.
yeah, she was so naive, yeah.
She was about to actually go
She was
also.
behind
Are you
him.
kidding me? I didn't even catch that when you said that, and I
And then this
registered it. I was
guy-
like, out of all the A, B, C, D things that she'll do, she won't do this. That
No.
she'll actually
And
go.
then the person
scary,
behind her, who's an
yeah.
Indian boy,
Huh.
who's probably very well versed in
Yeah.
how to protect women by this point.
Lol. Savior
Right.
complex, yeah.
Savior complex bhi nahi, I
Huh.
think Delhi mein, you know how to act when things like these happen. I think he was from Delhi, very
Delhi
interestingly.
se hu.
Delhi se hu, and he knew, so he called the police very smartly, and
That's nice.
that's how
cool.
she got
Yeah.
saved. And they
Yeah.
found out that he'd stolen the car also he was taking her to, so she would have never been found if she went with him. But so going off that sleepwalking, another thing our roommate used to do is write when she was sleeping. She used to write down things on paper, and one day I walked into her room and I was like, listen, what is this language? Because as far as I know, you only speak English and a little bit of Spanish, and it was Latin. She had written in Latin.
That's creepy. And she's never I remember you
Her
mentioning
sister
this story
knew.
roughly a couple of years back or whatever.
Yeah, her sister
but-
knew Latin, so
yeah.
she'd only heard a little bit here and there. She never
That's so
knew
interesting.
Latin.
That's
And
that,
it was
that,
very
that kind of
scary.
just like of course like my instinct or anyone's instinct would initially just be to rationalize it, but
Yeah.
at the same time you can't help but like rationalize it with that kind of a rhetoric which you just said, like her sister knew this, she must have come across it. But it's also so interesting because it's kind of that realm where you're like it's kind of there in the occult realm too, because you're like, where is that coming from, like
Yeah.
and there is like like having done a little bit of research on the topic, there isn't any like conclusive
No, there's
answer
not.
to it even now, like with the kind of technology and everything that we have. There are different arguments that people have where people are like, oh, it's just like the brain's way of like processing the thoughts and all of that. But even then, all of those are just, at the end of the day, they're all just like
There are things that
hypothetical.
exacerbate it though.
Sorry,
There are things that exacerbate things.
that
like
would make
sleep
sense. That would make
paralysis and
sense to make it worse.
like
yeah.
for example, caffeine, alcohol, stress.
Okay, that makes sense. Stress usually, like I feel like stress definitely plays a factor in like, of course,
Sleep mein kuch
with
bhi
your
ho.
mental health, of
Yeah.
course, whether it's your physical health. Like so many times when you go to the doctor's always just like
How much
even
have
if it's
you been sleeping?
acne, sometimes they're
Um,
like it's stress. Like that's I feel like a lot stress really does affect a lot of our just the way our body or our minds react
Yeah.
to these things. It's kind of creepy. Sometimes we can answer those things, sometimes we can't. But I
Yeah.
also feel like it's also I mean that's I feel like it's kind of, so many times it's kind of like an easy scapegoat too, where you're just like there might be something deeper around that
I
subject.
think there is, like with the subconscious mind
That's
especially.
what I feel like. Yeah, with your dreams, whether it's like bad dreams or it's sleep paralysis or sleepwalking, I feel like stress, of course, it's valid. That's there, but at the same time, why not something deeper? Why can it, like why can't it be something that's not known? I'm not saying it has to be spooky, ghost, you're possessed by the devil, the Christian devil or whatever, just to say Latin. But like it's not necessarily, it could, but it definitely shows that we really don't know what our minds are capable of.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
in the olden times,
Hmm.
sleep paralysis was seen as demonic possession.
That's
So
that's
they'd
interesting.
say that if you
And
have
he-
a sleep
yeah,
paralysis
yeah,
episode,
yeah,
you're possessed.
yeah, that's
Now they
creepy.
know it's
Yeah.
a sleep dysfunction,
Yeah.
but in the olden
Yeah,
ages, they
yeah.
think that something's wrong
With
with
the
you.
information that we have now, we know that it's
Yeah.
it's possibly that.
And there are even
hypothetically,
crazier theories
yeah,
about
yeah.
alien invasion and stuff with sleep paralysis, where they say
yeah,
that
yeah.
aliens are going to invade Earth very soon.
Okay.
And with sleep paralysis, they're testing out humans in some weird, twisted way. I don't know, but there's this whole talk about
I mean,
that
that's
as
so
well.
interesting. I feel like, of course, we're kind of going into that realm of our conversation. But why not? I feel like we really, at the end of the
Why
day, we
not
really
alien invasion?
no, not even. Of course, like I'm saying, why not? Of course, like we really what comes to my head is like the Matrix. Like we really don't know what's what, whether it's a glitch or whatever is happening.
Yeah.
We like we can just exist in our. I know it's kind of going into like we're going
No, of course.
like towards another argument in its own, but I feel like since we don't really have conclusive answers with science too, like science in itself, like quote unquote, whatever, has always
The neuroscience of sleep.
yeah, and
Yeah.
science has kind of just like evolved over time. Like doctors 100 years back would be considered like if today's doctors saw the practices of those doctors like 100 years back, they would be like, who are these like weird occult people or whatever. They might just have like a very skewed perception of these people. They would be like, these aren't doctors, these are hocus pocus people. Let us keep them away from medical science. And like similarly, I feel like 100 years from now, you would probably have the same thing.
I made more advancements, yeah.
There would be more advancements. There would be more understanding of things. There are so many things which kind of like and I feel like to rule something out, like to be like conclusively just be like, oh, this is not it. It's not alien. I'm not saying we're in an alien invasion or we're kind of going to have like an alien invasion or we're in the Matrix, but I'm saying at the same time there could be explanations for these certain behaviors or certain phenomenon that we go through, like dreams, which we don't have answers for. Not even we don't have answers for those things. Like we don't really we have different opinions on it with like different papers which are all hypothetical and aren't really conclusive, aren't really like oh, this is it. You look it up, you Google it right now, you won't find an answer to why do we have dreams. You will not. You'll just find different opinions, scattered opinions across the spectrum, but you will never really find an answer to these things. So I feel like that kind of makes you think, like what are these things, like whether it's like the alien thing that you mentioned, or it's demonic possession, or these are just ways of the human mind, like kind of rationalizing it to an extent, like to the limits of our capability or our thoughts. Maybe it's something that we really can't even imagine or fathom, like oh, this is possible. We really don't have that bandwidth to really process why this is happening, and we might know later on or whatever, or we might have been right, it's probably just a demon. Like it could be anything. My point being, like it's not
I
really
still feel like sleep paralysis is at the intersection of
mental health,
more like mind and the occult.
Yeah,
I still
I
believe
agree.
that.
I agree.
Going off of that and wrapping up this conversation, I think, or we think, I think,
Yeah.
right, that there's always an intersection of sleep and
The occult.
death,
Yeah.
sleep,
Yeah.
the occult, paranormal, mostly because the veil between our world and the spirit world.
And obviously,
is
it's
thin.
influenced by our minds, our whether it's mental health or it's just our brains, because we really don't even understand our brain. Like even mental health, we don't really understand
and
anything and everything about it.
And during sleep, we're just a little more capable of being vulnerable. So that's something to think about, right? That's something to think about. But let's wrap up with that thought on the intersection or the kind of doorways that sleep can open for you and that consciousness cannot. Yeah. Right? But yes, we hope you
We hope that was like an interesting episode for you guys to like hear about.
Yeah.
We will see you next week. We'll be talking about astral projection.
Yes,
and
hopefully, yes. That's the topic we'll cover next time. And
and hopefully it's interesting as well.
Yes. Plus, everything we've mentioned here is solely based on our research, our experiences. So if you're going to delve into
these are not facts. Please do your own research.
Yes, just Google it. And talk to people
and you'll
who are
probably
experts.
find the same answers as us.
Maybe, hopefully. But yes, until next time, thank you so much. Happy listening.
Bye.
Bye.